The B word dominates the front pages again this morning. 7:20. Good morning to you. Let's just take you through some of those after MPs voted to take control of business in the House of Commons to find a way through the deadlock. The Times first up says Theresa May has been humiliated by the Tory rebellion as 3 ministers defied the whip and resigned in order to vote for the amendment.
The Mail warns that the current crisis in Parliament could lead to another general election, and The Sun says the Prime Minister has indicated she might resign in return for MPs voting through her Brexit deal.
So what does the Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, make of all this? Delighted to say he joins us now from Westminster. We've also been talking about your vaccine story this morning, which I'll come to a little bit later on. But to deal with those front pages and the main story, first of all, if we could, Mr Hancock. I mean, the way it's hard to get clarity on exactly what will happen next. But what seems quite clear is that you're in office, but not really in power.
Well, I think in terms of clarity of what happens next, it is now very clear that those people who want to deliver on the result of the referendum, the best option is the Prime Minister's deal. And I've been saying that on this programme for months. But it's increasingly clear that that's the case.
Sorry to interrupt you. I really don't understand how you can still say that the Prime Minister's deal is the way forward. Surely that this is the death of that deal.
No, certainly not. And in fact, it demonstrates that the alternatives to that deal are not as good. And it demonstrates that the House of Commons is going to make sure that its voice is heard. For instance, I think it's now very clear that even for colleagues of mine who want to go down the no-deal route, the House of Commons is not going to let that happen. And so for those colleagues, the best option available is the Prime Minister's deal. You know, the House of Commons has had indicative votes over the past few months. It's had a vote on the customs union, which it rejected. It's had a vote on a second referendum, which it's rejected. So we have had individually the sorts of votes that are being proposed tomorrow. And it just brings me back again to the only deal that's also agreed with the EU and ready to go and doesn't risk a long delay and participating in the European elections in a couple of months' time, which all of the other options risk. And I think that this, in a way, it strengthens the case that the only way to deliver on a Brexit that's ready and can allow us to get on with it is to vote for the Prime Minister's deal.
OK, I'd be interested to see how many of your fellow MPs agree with you on that one. You talked about it being the clear way forward. It's a bit embarrassing, isn't it, from a UK perspective, to be 2 days away from the date that we were scheduled to leave the EU, and tomorrow there are a range of votes, basically, with MPs saying, what are our options? I mean, really, we're building up to this for 2 years and we're nowhere near a decision.
Well, I share that frustration. I know that lots of my colleagues are frustrated, colleagues who voted for the deal once or twice already, who want to get on with it and deliver Brexit and then get on to all the other things that we need to be talking about, like making sure that people are healthy and vaccinated, which is obviously a massive duty for me as Health Secretary. I also understand why colleagues who haven't voted for the deal yet are frustrated, because now it's clear that Parliament is going to stop no deal, and I think that they should vote for the deal too. So yes, it's been a hugely frustrating process, not least because there is a withdrawal agreement on the table that is a clear way to deliver on the result and do so in a way that protects the economy, protects people's jobs, and yet we haven't been able to assemble a majority in Parliament for it. So yeah, I share that frustration.
Can I ask you, I mean, the 3 resignations yesterday to vote against what Theresa May wanted the Tory party to direction they wanted the Tory party to go in. Do you still, you're convinced by the quality of her deal? Do you still think she has control of your party?
Well, yes, and I think that changing the party leader, it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change the arithmetic in Parliament. And also it would be a huge distraction when we've got a deadline of Friday to demonstrate to the EU support for this deal. Otherwise we end up having to go into this question of whether we run candidates in the European Parliament elections, which I think, and that's then a massive delay to Brexit and not being able to get on with it. And we'd end up in this in this debate seemingly endlessly, whereas we've got the option there in front of us to get on with it, to put Brexit in place, and then to get on with all the other things that this country can excel at.
Forgive me, but what was the point of the Chequers meeting then?
The Chequers meeting at the weekend?
Yes, all the series of meetings, yes, that one.
Well, to bring colleagues together and to try to find a way through. And I'm optimistic that that can still happen, but it hasn't happened yet. And but I think that one of the things that last night's vote showed is that the Commons simply won't allow a no-deal Brexit. It's not that we're not prepared. In the health department, we've been doing huge preparations, and we've done what is necessary. For instance, it's not that. It's that that building there won't allow it, and therefore the best deal on the table is the Prime Minister's.
I wanted to ask you before, as promised, about vaccines. You're talking about social media companies doing more to remove content which promotes misinformation about vaccines. Are you confident? We ask this question a lot because there's a lot of talk about sort of reining in the power of social media companies. Can you actually make a difference on this?
Yes, and this is exactly the sort of thing that we should be spending our time on and talking about, and if necessary, legislating for. Yes, of course, as a country, we can make decisions over these sorts of things. So I want to see the social media companies do far, far more to take down this material which is so damaging. Vaccines only work if almost everybody takes them. That's the whole point. And they are clearly the right thing to do scientifically. There's clear guidance from the experts, from the doctors on that. But online, there's these pernicious messages being sent to people, whether they search for terms about vaccines or not, sometimes just because they've got the right characteristics. Maybe they have small children. We need to make sure that sort of misinformation or disinformation is stopped, because it can be damaging to the public health.
Matt Hancock, appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much.